Oliveira versus Makhachev, main event of the evening. A fantastic fight, what people have been calling for quite a while now.
It's as good as it gets. I do think there's betting value on Charles. I don't think he should be as big a betting underdog as he is right now.
What is happening, everyone? We are back again, but today we have a very special episode. It's Chattin Pony. It's not really a Chattin Pony, because we're Chattin Pony about the latest UFC, what's coming out. It's going to be a little preview show for you for UFC 280. It's an amazing main card, but guess who I've got on the FaceTime here who's going to discuss it with us? It's only big Jon Anik. So introduce yourself, John.
Oh, man. Oh, it is great to be with you, brother. You're one of the few guys that I would break away during a pay-per-view week to talk to. Let's be clear about that. So I appreciate you pushing things back a little bit. I just left the UFC 280 press conference. It's electric here in Abu Dhabi. We're only missing Paddy Pimblett. Other than that, it's all systems go, my man.
Yeah, that's as we've just been talking about it there. You've just been the person in the middle of the face-offs, and there was a few little pushes and shoves. What's it like being stood in the middle there?
Yeah,
do you feel like you need to do something there?
Well, yeah, I mean, I certainly felt like I reacted fairly quickly, but Hunter Campbell came up to me right after that stare down. And if you didn't see it, Petr right at the end, quick shove right in the chest of Sean O'Malley, and Hunter Campbell came up and he's like, Johnny, you got to get closer on the next fight. So I made sure for Aljamain Sterling and TJ Dillashaw that I got a little bit closer. But yes, I mean, I love being in the belly of the beast, as you know. I don't get an opportunity to do stare downs all that often, but it's just intense, and like the intensity between Charles Oliveira and Islam Makhachev was incredible to see from 2 feet away. So we're raring to go, my man, as you know.
Well, as you've just said, Oliveira versus Makhachev, main event of the evening. You might as well open up on that. It's a fantastic fight, what people have been calling for quite a while now. So I can't wait to see it, to be honest. And it's not in Islam's backyard, but it is, you know what I mean? Charles is coming into enemy territory.
Yeah, no, it is. It feels like it's Islam Makhachev's backyard. The Brazilians seem to have traveled well, though. There's a lot of American and Brazilian representation here, so we'll see exactly where the crowd is on Saturday night. But obviously, this is the belt in your division, so I know you'll be watching with a keen interest. And it's the first time in UFC history where we've had 2 guys with double-digit winning streaks compete for a UFC championship. So I think when you look at the body of work for both of these guys, it's as good as it gets. Like, promotionally, the UFC cuts my check, Paddy, so this may sound like promotional hyperbole, but I'm not sure at 155 pounds or in any division, like, we can put a better matchup on paper. And I'm glad I'm calling the fight and don't have to give a prediction, because I truly think this could go either way. And that being said, I do think there's betting value on Charles. I don't think he should be as big a betting underdog as he is right now. I
cannot believe he's the underdog. I just don't understand it. Like, the people who he's finished in a row, what he done to Tony, you know what I mean? I don't understand how he's the underdog. Like, I'm trying to be fair, you know what I mean? I want Charles to win. I like Charles. He's one of my favourite fighters to watch. He's brilliant. But yeah, the only way I see Islam winning is literally if he sits on top of him for 5 rounds. And I don't see anyone doing that to Charles.
I mean, I think, and he's certainly, I don't either. And Makhachev certainly has a lot of nuances in his grappling game, and, you know, the Dagestani handcuff and the Dagestani mermaid when they lock up the legs. But Charles Oliveira, I don't have to tell you, is a totally different animal than anyone that Islam Makhachev has faced. And if Charles has had any criticism publicly of Islam, it's just about his strength of schedule. He believes he should have had to fight a top 5 guy or 2 in order to get this championship opportunity. But essentially, Paddy, like, when they're setting a betting line, they're trying to draw two-way action from the public. So you and I can sit here and say, why is Charles Oliveira plus 165? But ultimately, they're getting two-way action on the fight. They're getting people to bet on both sides, because if everybody was betting on Charles, the betting line would change. So line hasn't moved a whole lot, but I think Charles is a live underdog, and that's about as far as I can go as the guy who's calling the fight.
Yeah, I have picked Charles, you know what I mean? So from my point of view, I think Charles will get the finish in, say, 3 rounds. But I seen him in an interview yesterday say I'm going to knock him out in 1. But I think if it goes to decision, it's Makhachev. If it's going to be a finish, it's going to be Charles. But I'm going for Charles personally. I just think he's fought a higher caliber of opponent. So he knows how to get through these hard times. Well, because Islam will take him down. 100%. He'll get him down.
Yeah, no, I think you set it up well. I do think Islam Makhachev at some point will be able to take Charles Oliveira down. But I think a lot of Charles's confidence is rooted in the strength of schedule and just the wealth of UFC experience, which you sort of laid out. So, yeah, I think Charles is buoyed by that. He had 30 people in the fighter meeting today, bro. I mean, literally brought the entire team into the fighter meeting. These guys have been so forged together by Charles's success. And, yeah, I mean, for me, it's like if I'm trying to bet this fight or bet on UFC 280, like I'm looking for another fight. Like this main event, to me, I would just lay off and enjoy the action and find another opportunity on the board. I think it's a fascinating fight. And I guess the UFC historian in me would like to see Charles get it done just because of the nature of his last fight. I kind of felt like he got hosed by the commission, if I'm being honest. So, I would like to see Charles, continue his reign. But Islam's going to have a lot to say about that.
Yeah, I've personally said it, to be honest, John. They might be fighting for a vacant title, but really, this is Oliveira's third title defense. Technically, I don't care what anyone says. But yeah, my pick, right. Charles Oliveira. If you just want to bet with me, you don't have to, though. I don't mind. You know what I mean? Bet however way you want. But next fight, co-main event, we've got Aljo versus TJ Dillashaw. And this is another one, like old school versus new school.
Yeah, I think Aljamain Sterling is underappreciated in terms of his body of work. And I know you're a willing and able grappler, so you understand just how good he is in that realm. Yeah. He's absolutely enormous for 135 pounds. He did walk into our fighter meeting today. He was our first meeting, Paddy, and he was tired. Like, his energy came on during the meeting, but when he first walked in the room, I was concerned. He had a much better disposition about him at the press conference, and so I'm less concerned. But make no mistake about it, this is a difficult cut down to 135 pounds for Aljamain Sterling. I do think you'll see him at featherweight before his UFC career is said and done. I guess for me, there are more variables and more unknowns on the Dillashaw side, right? He's 36 years old. He did acknowledge that he has had to train smarter and focus on recoverability and things like that a little bit at this stage of his career. Obviously, he hasn't fought all that often, right? The suspension followed by the Sandhagen fight, which was a great result, but he went into surgery like 24 hours after the Sandhagen result, so it's not as though he was able to get sustained training, which has a lot of value. But yeah, certainly I see a striking advantage for Dillashaw, but I see a decided grappling advantage for Aljamain Sterling, and not a lot of people see it that way. A lot of people think Dillashaw's ground game is underrated, and I would give you that. But I just think Aljo is a totally different animal down there in terms of the physicality, the strength, the positioning, the human backpack, all of that. I think Dillashaw needs a kickboxing match in order to realize success Saturday. I really do.
Yeah, I'm 100% agreeing with you there. I think Aljo gets underrated because of obviously how he won the title against Petr Yan. People still look past him, but he won the rematch, so you can't. He's the bantamweight champion of the world. It's that simple, and I'm leaning towards the side of Aljo, to be honest. As you say, TJ's 36 now. He's getting a bit older. We don't know really what he's going to be like in a 5-round grappling match, and I think that's what Aljo's going to make it. He's going to try and get on his back and submit him, and I think he could end up winning the decision, to be honest.
We talked to Aljamain in the fighter meeting about just the wrestling, right? And it seems as though TJ obviously is a Division I wrestler. Aljo was 87-27 as a Division III All-American. But wrestling and MMA, and again, I don't have to tell you this, but to your audience, right? It's a totally different animal. Like, we asked Aljo if he was wrestling TJ, and he thinks he would just murk the guy. Like, he thinks it would be a no contest. And if you're asking me, if those guys put singlets on, I do give the advantage right now to Aljamain Sterling, just relative to where he is at in his athletic career. Seems to me to be the more primal guy right now. I'm really curious to see what we get out of TJ Dillashaw. And even though he's lost the respect of a lot of his peers, I think his peers like yourself still appreciate the skill set of TJ Dillashaw. They still acknowledge the hard work. They know he has heart. I just don't particularly like the matchup for him. If indeed it's a grappling match for 25 minutes, and I do believe that Aljo's going to realize success and be able to take Dillashaw down, and we'll see if TJ tries to mix in some of his offensive wrestling. But I do think for Dillashaw, striking advantage, got to find a way to keep it there, and that's obviously easier said than done.
Yeah, much easier said than done. Personally, once again, I'm going for Aljo. I think he could get a decision here by taking TJ down relentlessly, and obviously I've got to pick against TJ, lad. He was calling me fat the other week. Cheeky bastard.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
I mean, he prints
got to pick against him.
Fat Tyler. I don't know. Have you ever seen TJ's t-shirts? He prints
That's what I tweeted back, Tyler. John. That's what I tweeted back. You had t-shirts years ago called Fat Tyler. What are you talking about, you hypocrite? So, well. But yeah. Next fight on the card, we've got fan favourite Sean O'Malley, but he's taken a big step up in competition this time and fighting Petr Yan. I never ever thought I'd see this fight get put together so soon. I thought we'd be another year or 18 months down the line you'd see a fight like this.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? The backdrop to this fight. It seems as though Petr Yan had an opportunity to fight Marlon Chito Vera in a main event in August. Didn't want that fight for whatever reason. That fight went to Dominic Cruz. And then the Sean O'Malley fight materialized and surfaced for Petr Yan. And I think as far as Jan's concerned, what he said to us today, Paddy, I'm the number one contender. I need one win, and I'm getting back into a championship setting. And Dana White has all but guaranteed that the winner of Sean O'Malley and Petr Yan is going to fight the winner of Aljamain Sterling and TJ Dillashaw as this sort of mini bantamweight tournament plays out. So the upside in this fight for Yan is twofold. Obviously, O'Malley moves a lot of needles. I don't have to tell you. I mean, internally, in terms of the metrics, you know, he drives the pay-per-view, and that's exciting for Petr Yan to be able to showcase his skills against a guy that everybody is watching. And then just fighting anybody who is ranked, he feels like a win is going to be enough. On the O'Malley side, I don't know how you feel, but I feel like if you look at the top 7, this is one of the better matchups for Sean. Even though we have seen Yan mix in his wrestling at times, you know, I think Petr Yan wants to strike, and he's going to have to navigate the length and the timing and the accuracy of Sean O'Malley. I think there's value on O'Malley, man, plus 275 or so, but Petr Yan, when he is on, I would say to you, I think when Yan is on, he's the best 135-pound fighter in the world. He wasn't on, though, in his last fight against Aljo. We'll see if he is Saturday night.
I would agree with you on that. He's the best 135er in the world on his day, 100%. I personally think, though, it's a win-win for O'Malley because a lot of people just expecting him to lose. Oh, he's fighting number rank 1 in the world, Petr Yan. Know what I mean? Of course, he's going into it like people think he could lose. So he's going into it. If he wins, it's he won. But if he loses, people are like, he was going to lose anyway.
Yeah. One other thing that I thought was interesting, too, in terms of the fighter meetings, that Petr Yan acknowledged Sean O'Malley as a more dangerous guy than Corey Sandhagen. And I thought that was pretty interesting. You know, Petr Yan certainly is not resting on his laurels. He's not sleeping on this challenge. He understands how good Sean O'Malley is in terms of his striking, his distance management. I actually think O'Malley's grappling is underrated. He hasn't had a whole lot of opportunities to showcase it up to this point. But yeah, I mean, I think you hit on a truth there. Like, I don't know that there's much downside for Sean O'Malley. Certainly, it would be hard to expedite a title run if he loses to Petr Yan. But you're right, you fight the number one contender. Not a lot of people are giving you a shot to win this fight. And given his star power, not unlike present company Paddy Pimblett, I think Sean O'Malley's going to be a pay-per-view mainstay, fighting guys in the top 10 for years to come. So a lot of people think this fight is too much too soon. I don't think it's that. You know, I think Sean O'Malley's career has sort of built foundationally the right way. Like, I think he's ready to test himself against this division's elite, and we'll see how it goes for him, man.
Yeah, he is. As you know, it's always one punch. Everyone's one punch away from finishing a fight, and Sean's got power in his hands for a 135er, real power.
Yeah, I mean, he sort of talks his own power down a little bit. You know, he feels like it's a byproduct of his speed and his timing. But I agree with you, man. And sometimes when I'm in these fighter meetings, I know I keep referencing them here on your show, but I do think there's so much value to extract from these fighter meetings. Sometimes I'll just look at an athlete's hands to see how big or small their hands are. You know, Dillashaw and Aljo got these tiny hands. You know, O'Malley's long everywhere. Like, he's a big boy, you know. I had long everywhere. But Sean's got big hands, man.
He'll be happy you said that.
And yeah, right. That's right. Right. Normally hand size and foot size is inexorably linked to size in other parts of the body. But yeah, I mean, Sean's a big boy for 135 pounds and seems to have gotten ahead of the weight cut as usual. He got here early, 2 weeks early. So, yeah, it's a great fight. Candidly, only heightened by what we saw at the press conference today with Jan shoving him.
Yeah, that fight, to be honest, I really like Sean, so I don't want to pick against him. But I think Jan's going to win, so I'm not giving you the line for that one. It's not happening. Next fight, though, another lightweight bout.
The best part about my job, Paddy,
you don't have to decide.
The best part about my job is that I don't have to pick fights. The last time I picked a fight was this 209 tattoo on my arm. So, yeah, we don't pick fights anymore. We just try to navigate around it as best we can. So.
He's got a tattoo to prove it as well, why he doesn't pick fights anymore. Brilliant, that, you know.
And if Paddy Pimblett wins the UFC lightweight championship, I think we probably got to get some sort of Paddy or Liverpool tattoo. So
yeah,
we'll
little
make that
lava
happen.
beard
You win
or
the
something.
lightweight championship.
Because, as I say, a little lava beard, it'd be blend. People just like, oh, it's a beard. You know what I mean? Be like, no, it's a lava beard. But yeah, next fight on the card is another lightweight title. I mean, not lightweight title, another lightweight bout. And this is one of the I am going to be keeping my eyes on. I really like Gamrot. I've seen some of his fights from years ago in KSW, and I really like him and I rate him. I think he's very, very good. And he's fighting Beneil Dariush, who, again, another top 5 lightweight in the world. And that's going to be a scrap.
Yeah, I think this is the fight of the night. I think it has bonus money written all over it. You set it up well. People don't make enough of the KSW credentials for Mateusz Gamrot, you know? Winning that lightweight title, defending it several times. Then they ask him to go down to featherweight, which he did one time, made the weight, won that belt, you know? I think this guy has every skill you would want. I think he looks like a future champion when he's on. His wrestling is outstanding. And Beneil Dariush has been blown away by him too. Like, I've never heard Beneil Dariush be so complimentary about an opponent in my life. Beneil usually keeps things pretty close to the vest, and he had a lot of superlatives, good ones, talking about Mateusz Gamrot. So I think Beneil understands what he's in for, but Dariush is just a fighter's fighter, man. I mean, he just absolutely loves fight night. We talk about a guy like Georges St-Pierre that hated fight night, right? With the anxiety and the pressure to perform. Some of these guys and women really enjoy fight night, and I'm not sure anybody enjoys it as much as Beneil Dariush, but I do think he has to resist the temptation to brawl at times, which I think is his nature, because he just wants to street fight at times and throw caution to the wind. But I think if this fight hits the canvas, we could see some absolutely great transitions on both sides, and I don't think it's going the distance for whatever the hell it's worth. I think they're going to go at it, and I think one or the other is going to get the other man out of there. And Gamrot isn't the biggest lightweight in the world, and so I thought it was interesting that he said when he saw Dariush in person, he didn't think Beneil was all that big, and when you saw them at the stare down, I think size-wise, Gamrot matches up pretty favorably. So I was surprised that Mateusz was a 2-1 favorite, but perhaps maybe I am less surprised as I've been here over the last few days, just absorbing everything here in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, as you say, he does love a barn burner, does Beneil Dariush. That fight with Drakkar Close, the ending of that is just ridiculous. That's just a war. It's brilliant.
Yeah. Oh, that was the meme that was repurposed around the world of me and Joe Rogan and Daniel Cormier. Yeah, I mean, we thought we were about to call a Drakkar Close knockout, and the next thing you know, Dariush is knocking him out. It was nuts. One of the crazier rally back-and-forth fights I've ever called.
What's it like commentating next to them two, lad? That must be hilarious. DC one side, Joe Rogan the other.
It is. It's great, and we're friends outside the octagon, which certainly I think helps the chemistry and everything else on fight night. But no, man, I mean, I got to pinch myself at times looking to my right and just seeing these absolute giants and legends. I remember the first time I called a fight with Joe Rogan in 2012 on short notice. It was UFC 155. I had been working for the company for about a year, and I get a call 3 days out like, hey, man, Mike Goldberg can't make it. You're getting called up to the big leagues. I mean, dude, I was myself, man. I was freaking out. But now I've been working with the guy for 5 or 6 years. It's weird when your broadcast partner is like this unquestioned A-list celebrity that everybody wants a piece of. Like I joke to people, like, yeah, my broadcast partner's more famous than yours, to be sure. But DC's one of my best friends in the world, and, I'm very thankful to have those two guys, and I lean on them and their expertise. And, yeah, I mean, there are some broadcast booths, right? Like if it's me and Dominic Cruz in a 2-man booth, if there's any comedy in that broadcast booth, like it's coming from me. It's not coming from Cruz. As much as I love the guy, like he's not necessarily there for humor. So I've worked with, I think, 15 or 16 total combinations in 11 years with the UFC, and I try to sort of placate and have my style sort of dovetail with whatever the mix is. But certainly with Joe and DC, I'm not afraid to touch my top lip to my bottom lip and shut the hell up for 6 hours if need be and let those two guys shine. And I think any good play-by-play guy will tell you, if the analysts shine, it's a good broadcast. So try to let them shine.
I had my first go at commentating a couple of weeks ago on Cage Warriors in Rome. And it was meant to be a 3-man team, and the play-by-play commentator couldn't make it. So,
oh God!
Yeah, so Daniel Strauss,
just two.
Yeah, Daniel Strauss had to be the play-by-play commentator, and then I was the second commentator. But yeah, it went well. I proper enjoyed it. who was good. Some very good fights to commentate on. So would you say the Drakkar close?
Yeah, there's nothing like...
Oh, no, go on, John.
Yeah, well, there's nothing quite like live events, right? So, like, I cut my teeth in TV at ESPN headquarters in Bristol, Connecticut, and I do think whatever your walk of life is, like, it's important to realize, even within broadcasting, what do I like and what don't I like? Dude, I didn't like being in a studio in Bristol, Connecticut 5 days a week. Like, all right, let me take you to Minnesota, first inning, Twins and Yankees. Like, I didn't want to be a highlight machine the rest of my life. The live events are where it's at. And even though I don't love being away from my kids 100 nights a year, like, I don't necessarily want to be in Abu Dhabi right now this far away, but this is my passion, this is my craft, and live events compared to studio work, there's no comparison for me. So, yeah, I mean, I think the close Dariush fight was as memorable a moment as we've had in that booth, and, hopefully when Paddy Pimblett's next fight is on pay-per-view, we'll have another one.
Well, I promise you now, you're going to have a new GIF. There'll be a new GIF after I finish my opponent on December 10th.
Let's go.
Of UDC and Rogan. Hopefully he gets flying triangled or something.
We'll be ready to go.
But yeah, obviously, as we've just said,
cap it for you.
Dariush versus Gamrot. I think I'm going to agree with you there as well, John. I think that's got fight of the night written all over it. Because everyone's talking about the other fights and it's getting like look past a little bit. People are forgetting about it.
Yeah, I think it's the most overlooked fight on the pay-per-view, to be sure. I guess you could say for Manon Fiorot and Katlyn Chookagian, they're not getting a whole lot of shine, but they are the pay-per-view opener. And because the lightweight championship is on the line, and because Alexander Volkanovski is here as a backup, I just think that Gamrot and Dariush has sort of fallen under the radar. So, yeah, I think you put that well. I think those guys are going to steal the show.
Yeah, same. It has flew under the radar, but perfectly set us on to our next fight, as you say, the pay-per-view opener. I don't want to get the names wrong. Katlyn Chookagian versus Manon.
Nailed it.
Fiorot. No?
Yeah, good enough. We say Fior, so we just stop it. Manon Fior.
Yeah, that's hard to
Look
say.
At you. This guy's going to be doing UFC commentary, folks, before too long. You'll see.
You know
You'll
that.
See. You'll see.
You know that. Sitting next to you soon, lad.
Dude, I got to say, man, I mean, I could listen to you Liverpudlians talk all day long. It doesn't even matter what you're talking about. I absolutely love listening to you in particular and all of your countrymen and women. My twin brother talks about it all the time. Like, we're from Boston, where everybody hates our accent. Now, I don't have a strong twang because I didn't grow up in a part of the city where it was really prevalent. But your accent just brings all of us in, man. I hope you know that. Every last one of us Americans.
Well, it's funny the way you say that because the rest of England hates us. They absolutely hate us and hate our accent. Lad.
I bet. I believe it.
Absolutely hate us.
Maybe a little envy. Maybe a little envy.
You hear our voice and you go, oh, Scouse bin dipper. You're like, what?
Yeah.
It's just standard.
Yeah. It's just jealousy is all it is.
It is. It's definitely jealousy. Do you know we're the boys, lad. That's what it is. Just like Boston. They're the boys, so they try and say something about it.
That's right.
But I'll be honest, I don't really know much about Katlyn Chookagian or Manon Fiorot. So I'll have to leave this one to you, John. I'll put you in the hot seat.
Yeah, well, I am ready to go. So Manon Fiorot has won 9 consecutive fights, dropped her pro debut, and now has reeled off 9 straight. She's perfect in the UFC, couple of finishes, last 2 wins by decision. But I got this betting line way off. I thought this would be a pick'em fight. Fiorot is like a 2-1 favorite, and I think that speaks to the odds makers believing she is closer to her fighting prime than Katlyn Chookagian. The fact that Fiorot is the more prolific finisher, right? Katlyn Chookagian, I think, might have double-digit UFC wins, but she's never had a finish in the UFC. So I think that speaks to the betting line a little bit. But Katlyn Chookagian, in spots like this, usually dominates. Like, these fights aren't even usually close. When she, as the number 1 contender, is fighting somebody else in that top 10, usually she has her way. And in this particular fight, I think she has a good chance to use her grappling and her wrestling, and that has not been what we have seen from Katlyn Chookagian. She has worked very hard on those aspects of her game. She actually was promoted to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt this month, training with John Danaher and all those guys at Renzo Gracie's in New York and in the greater tri-state area. Her grappling's outstanding, and I think that's an advantage for her in this fight. I talked to her husband, who's also in her corner, Kyle Sermonara, and he said he hopes that jiu-jitsu is a part of this fight. But even if this is a kickboxing match, I think Chookagian is far more competitive than plus 175 suggests. So betting value on Chookagian. I'm excited to see Fiorot fight live in person. I haven't had the chance to do that all that often. But again, very surprised at how wide the betting line was. I thought Chookagian would be closer to a pick'em as opposed to be plus 175 or so.
Especially if she's number 1 and Fiorot's number 6. You know what I mean? It's crazy, isn't it? Normally the higher ranked person's but that's just something that when you look at this whole card, Makhachev's ranked lower and he's the favourite. What's his face as well? Gamrot's ranked lower and he's the favourite. You know, it's
right.
crazy.
No, you're right.
It's not something you see
and a
very
lot of
often.
those fights are actually in that similar price range too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and and again, like Mateusz Gamrot, right? Like he's 21-1. He may not have the UFC credentials right now of Beneil Dariush, but look at the body of work, as we mentioned. Look at what the man has done. You don't get favored against Beneil Dariush on a 7-fight winning streak in the UFC at 155 pounds by accident. So we'll see how it plays out, but Dariush is ready to go. He brought his child to Abu Dhabi, which I think is crazy, but I guess the kid survived the airplane flight. I mean, all these fighters bringing their kids on these international trips. I don't even invite my kids domestically. I know I'm not competing, but my kids aren't invited when I'm going 4 hours away, never mind 15.
Yeah, I haven't got any kids yet, so I haven't have to worry about that yet, John. I've just got to worry about getting the missus over
Wait
there.
on that. You wait as long as you can on that,
yeah,
Paddy.
I'm waiting a few years, definitely. But personally, for me, just before I ask you a few questions, moving off from the card, Gamrot's 22-0. He never lost that fight. He's 22-0 for me.
Right. Fair. No, that's fair.
So, yeah, obviously, you've been a commentator
what
for
else you got for me?
I was just about to say, you've been a commentator for like 11 years now. Like, did you ever see MMA exploding like this? Did you always see it happening?
Perhaps not to this extent, right? But I left a fairly stable job at ESPN to join the UFC in 2011. And there were certainly people in my life at that time who said, you've been working as a broadcast journalist this whole time to get to ESPN. You finally barged the door down. You're in the building. Why are you leaving for the UFC right now? So the answer is because I believed in Dana White and the UFC and this sport to get to that requisite next level. I put my chips in the center of the table. I mean, I bet all in on the UFC. And part of it was because I was working as a boxing radio guy for years. And I didn't know really what mixed martial arts was. And then in 2007, my boxing radio show was invited to go cover an MMA event. And from that moment on, my whole vision changed. I mean, I walked out of that arena in Tunica, Mississippi that night thinking, like, I don't even like boxing anymore. Like, look how much more exciting this sport is than boxing. Look at how much more this sport has to offer. All they do in boxing is hold, you know? So, yes, it was a bet on mixed martial arts for me. I don't know that I could have foreseen that they would get the ESPN deal and all the things that have happened for the UFC domestically. I couldn't have foreseen that necessarily. I always knew how big the sport was globally, but I didn't expect us to get this big, at least in North America, this quickly. So, yeah, I bet on the right guy, Dana, and I think I bet on the right sport, and just trying to earn that seat, you know, every pay-per-view out, man.
Yeah, you fully earned that seat. Don't be worrying about that. It's crazy the way you said you went your first MMA show in 2007. I was 12. I didn't know what MMA was.
Right. See? Yeah. Well, right. And, you know, I'm like the older guy in the room now more often than not. And that wasn't the case when I started with the UFC. But I'm okay with that. Yeah, I mean, I was calling fights for the UFC before most of the roster made their amateur debut. So, yeah. I'm getting old, brother. I'm getting old.
Nah, you're not getting old. You're not getting old. Don't be silly. You'll be in that seat for another 20 years. Definitely, the way you call the fights, lad. It's the best little the best little broadcast team you can get, lad. You DC, Rogan, Bisbin and that. You're just flying. Can't wait for you to call my next fight, you know.
I can't tell you how much that means. Dude, I can't. It means a whole lot to us when you say that. Like, that means something to all of us, to a man, to hear you say that. So thank you.
I'd also like Felder's great, John Gooden's great, you know what I mean? Cruz also, as you say, you don't get a laugh out of him, but he's great. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He can be a funny prick when we're not on the air, but when we're on the air, he's so focused on the fighting, and he's just such an MMA mind that he you know, not too much time for fun and games. But I love my guy Dom Cruz.
Yeah, he looks like a serious dude when he's on the comms, like serious. Oh, he's great.
No doubt.
But yeah, we'll move on to the Ask Paddy segment, John. I have a little section where we let people know that you were going to come online. So I've got a few questions off people. So let's see what they are. Alice D843 says, ask John what his favourite and least favourite parts are about being a twin. Oh yeah, I didn't know he was a twin, John. And if he has the power to
twin.
If he has the power to rub the fame in Jason's face at family gatherings or holidays.
He's my biggest supporter. He is honestly my biggest supporter, and he deserves a lot of credit for me being where I am. Whether it's a contract negotiation or a bad broadcast, he is always my number one source for all of those things. And I really feel like it is the greatest blessing in my life. It's sort of weird. Like, imagine to your audience if there was another Paddy Pimblett walking the earth, right? Like when Joe Rogan met my twin brother, he freaked out, because we are like monozygotic identical twins. We look the same, we sound the same, we act the same, we respond the same way. Our mannerisms are identical. We just started an NFL podcast together, and I can't even tell who's talking, So, again, it's hard for our spouses, honestly, because of how close we are. And there's nobody happier for any of my success than him. So I appreciate the question, and much love for my twin bro, to be sure.
I'm just putting it out there now, Jason. We're definitely going to meet. Don't be coming up to me, tricking me like you're John. Know what I mean? Don't be doing all that, coming over that and making me think it's John. Make sure you say it's you.
Well, dude, I'll tell you, Jason has hair down to his ass. He hasn't had a haircut in 3 years, so.
At least you can say he's apart then. Know what I mean? My dad's a twin, but he's not identical.
Yeah. All right, so those type of twins run in families, so maybe you and your girl will have twins.
Oh, lad, I've already been speaking about this, John. My dad's a twin, and her nan is a twin. So it's probably going to happen. It's a good job it's not me giving birth, isn't it? Good job it's not coming out of me.
But tell her you get 2 babies for 1 labor. She would take that
any
day of the week, So
you get 2 for the price of 1.
And then,
know what I mean?
2 kids, and then done. Call it a day.
Yeah. I think I want 3. I definitely don't want triplets though. No. That'd be a nightmare.
I don't know how you handle 3 newborns. I don't know how you do that.
Oh yeah, there's a good question. Harry Jones asks, ask John what he thinks would be the most exciting matchup for me, either past, present, or future.
Oh, gosh. At 155 pounds, well, I'd like to certainly see Paddy Pimblett against BJ Penn if you're talking past, present, or future, because I think both of you guys are 5-tool players. I feel like you and Sean O'Malley, people, because of the magnitude of your star power and your persona, let them keep sleeping on the skills, Like, people don't think Sean O'Malley can grapple, and that's okay, Like, let his opponents think that Sean O'Malley can't grapple. So, BJ Penn comes to mind. I mean, obviously, Kenny Florian is my podcast partner. I'd love to see you and Ken Flo scrap. I think you might actually have some advantages over my guy, Ken Flo. Yeah, but I'm dying to know who they're going to match you up with next, man, as are all the MMA matches here in Abu Dhabi.
Even I'm dying to know who I'm getting matched with, know what I mean? Even I've heard whisper. I've even seen some idiots on Twitter try and say, oh, he's fighting him. I'm not fighting no one until I sign a contract. There's whispers here, there, and everywhere, but until I sign a contract, I'm not fighting anyone.
A lot of rumblings out there.
Because they all want me, John. They all want me. But next question.
They do.
Insane HD. What does Jon Anik enjoy most about the sport besides being part of such a huge franchise?
Probably the submission game, because I think offensive submission games are sort of hard to come by these days, right? Like, if you look at UFC history and the submission frequency, it has gone down. My favorite way to see a fight end is by submission. And let's take Belal Muhammad, who is competing this weekend against Sean Brady, right? Belal is an outstanding wrestler and a very good grappler. But imagine if he had a signature choke, how much of a problem he would be. Kamaru Usman has 1 submission win, despite the fact that he regularly gets the fight to the ground, gets dominant positions, but isn't necessarily able to put anybody away. So for me, I would say that that's my favorite thing about it, is seeing guys sort of turn back the clock, win fights by submission. And just being able to do pay-per-views all around the world. You know, I haven't called a fight in the United Kingdom since 2013. And the thought that I might get to go there in March or April to call a Leon Edwards title fight is very exciting for me, because our international pay-per-view audiences are just insane. So,
yeah,
to me, doing international
I don't think that's going to come off.
Is certainly, yeah. Well, we'll see. I think that for me, I would say international pay-per-views and submission wins are probably the best part of the job. And you know, there's no real worst part of the job other than being away from the kids. That's just I was a homesick camper, so like it's hard to be away from my kids. But you know, I do the best I can.
Yeah. No, what you just touched on it there. We didn't speak about a fight. Sean Brady versus Belal Muhammad. It's only just come to me then, but
it's a prelim, right?
Oh, is that not even
it's
on the main card?
Fight, and yeah, well, we got a lot of depth here. You know, good problem to have.
Crazy.
But in terms of like heat being on a fight, it's always great as a fan, as a commentator, if there is legitimate heat on a fight. And Sean Brady and Belal Muhammad like really don't like each other, and Belal hasn't really had friction with an opponent like this before. So to see this side of Muhammad, you know, the Muslim, talking trash and going at the city of Philadelphia, I think it's refreshing to hear. And Sean Brady, you know, felt like he was respectful calling out Muhammad, so he has taken issue with Belal getting upset with him. So I'm really excited to see those two go at it. And another interesting betting line, right? I mean, Belal Muhammad is as UFC tested as it gets. He's fought everybody in the top 10. Sean Brady kind of just getting going, and yet he's about, you know, minus 150 betting favorite. So another interesting betting line for me.
Yeah, it is. I actually agree with that one, though. I do think, personally, I think Sean's going to win. I think Sean's going to take the dub there, to be honest. But I've got one more question here off Seeds, and it says, question for Jon and Paddy. I think you might have answered this before, though. What result has caused the biggest reaction from the commentary team on a fight you have called or watched?
So I would say it was Rose Namajunas' knockout of Joanna Jędrzejczyk to win the belt the first time.
Oh, yeah.
And second only to when Rose knocked out Zhang Weili. And this isn't necessarily a comment about the strawweight division as a whole, but this isn't a heavyweight fight. So you feel like you're sitting down and you're settling in for a fight that's going to go longer than 3 minutes. And Joanna Jędrzejczyk, still to this day, is the greatest strawweight champion of all time, future UFC Hall of Famer. We knew she had a bad weight cut, and we knew there were myriad issues that she was dealing with during the week. We also knew that Rose Namajunas was a very talented martial artist, but to see the division flip on a dime like that in 3 minutes, and DC's saying, Thug Rose, I mean, that's probably the most memorable one. And then second was when she knocked out Zhang Weili. Again, Zhang Weili is one of the greatest athletes most of us have ever seen in an MMA setting. You feel like you're hunkering down for a fight that'll go 15, 20 minutes, and the next thing you know, it's over. Absolutely crazy, those two results produced by the former champ Thug Rose.
Yeah, for me, it's either going to be Tony Chandler, because Tony was doing so well in the first round, and then when Chandler caught him with that kick, it was just crazy. And then Derek Lewis versus Volkov, because that was just crazy. Last 10 seconds, getting beat up for 3 rounds and just lands an overhand. Ridiculous. That man has some power.
I should have mentioned that one. Yeah, I should have mentioned Derek Lewis and Alexander Volkov. That's a good shout out by you. And then I believe there was Darren Elkins and Mirsad Bektic was another comeback.
Yeah, when
Darren
he got
Elkins
beat up for 2 rounds.
Yeah, as usual. If that dude is like a human being, then what am I, right? Like I'm just not made of the stuff that Darren Elkins is made of, you know?
And then I'm just thinking of one more. What was it?
You don't have Darren Elkins' DNA.
When Korean Zombie got elbowed, that's another one that was ridiculous. That was just wow.
Yep, I wasn't there, but absolutely.
Yair Rodriguez.
Yeah, and then, you know, we had a fight in Brisbane, Australia with Mark Hunt and Antonio Bigfoot Silva that still to this day is regarded as one of the greatest heavyweight fights of all time. And I just remember it was like early morning in Australia, and Kenny Florian and I are walking out of the arena and just said to ourselves, like, I hope everybody in the States was watching this little UFC fight night, because that's the best heavyweight fight I've ever seen.
Yeah, unbelievable. But as we said, John, you're out there in Abu Dhabi, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. I want to thank you for coming on with me, but tell everyone where to find you on social media, your podcast, stuff like that. Let everyone know. Get it out there.
Well, thank you, buddy. You know you'll always have a big fan in me. When Paddy Pimblett calls, you take that. baseball. So thank you for having me. Anik and Florian podcast live every Monday. So we've been going strong. It'll be 8 years in April. So we thank everybody for the support and look forward to seeing you on the road, man. Hopefully in Las Vegas in December. But thank you guys for having me and happy to jump on anytime with you boys.
Yeah, I will 100% be with you in Vegas. Like, I'm going to be getting there a little bit early as well to acclimatise properly. So I'll hopefully get to bump into everyone because I think I'm going to try and get there about 2 weeks early, if not at least 10 days. So I cannot wait to get to Vegas and beat someone up in Nevada.
See you in the desert, Paddy Pimblett. We can't wait.
Thank you very much for your time, John. It's been an absolute pleasure. There's your special episode, The Firm. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. And that's it. Peace out.